Hello everybody, welcome to the class. Today we're going to be painting some nice ice cold snow, lovely magical little scene, so I think you're going to enjoy it. Quite a bit of work today. I'm painting on a smaller canvas. I'm going to try something different today. So I've taken a 16 by 20 canvas and I've split it into 4 pieces, and I'm going to be painting on one of those quarters. So it's basically an 8 by 10 canvas. So if you've got a 16 by 20, you can paint it full size. You can paint a bigger painting as well, it doesn't matter. Or if you've got a 9 by 12 canvas, that'll be great to paint along with. Or you can do like I did, just split your 16 by 20 in quarters and paint you 1/4, then it'll be the same size as mine. Alright, snow, lots of painting today, so I better crack on with a little bit of theory that I want to do. Snow forms under the correct temperatures and the correct weather conditions, and it forms little ice crystals. So what happens is those ice crystals form, I think you've probably seen a photo of the snow crystal itself. Little stars, I think it's got eight little, 6 or 8, I can't remember, little star points, very, very pretty under a microscope. Now what happens is, because they're so super light, as they fall down to the earth and they collect at a spot, then they sort of meld together. So what we're going to do now is first just going to take a look, what do we need to do, or what happens when these little ice crystals, these snowflakes, melt together. So because we obviously now need to capture that on the canvas and make it look realistic and alive. So let's go and take a look, what do we need to do there. So let's flip over to here and dump that. Alright. There's a nice old pile of snow. So let's go and zoom in there a little bit. Here at the top you can see quite nicely. You see how loose these little flakes lie on top of each other? Let me see how far I can zoom in without it going too pixely. Very light little flakes. But now as they pack up, so let's zoom back out again. As they pack up, here at the bottom, it's obviously getting heavier and heavier because it's got more and more snow lying on top of it. So these little light, little fluffy flakes gradually become a bit more of a solid mass, a heavier mass. And they could actually start melting together and forming more solid ice. So what also happens is, now you've got the sun baking on it, and then they also melt. And as it melts, it first turns to ice, and then eventually it turns to water. Now what happens is, as these flakes fall and they land on each other, and they sort of fuse together. So the first thing that happens is, you'll notice that ice, or snow rather, you'll find that there's no hard edges, because they sort of meld together. You can almost sort of think of it in the same sense as a putty. A putty is not going to give you any hard edges. It's going to, unless you physically squeeze it together, it's going to sort of form roundings. So even if I go, let's find I've got a picture with the cart tracks here. There he is. Okay, so even if we go over here, you see with these cart tracks, I mean, if you zoom out, let's zoom back out again, it seems like hard lines. But now let's zoom further in again. Can you see there, each one of these guys is actually a shading. There's absolutely no hard lines. You get the odd little, even this top edge over here, which is normally a hard line, is got a bit of a rounding to it. And you can see this is a very fresh track. The guy's just driven over this piece of snow here. So that's the one thing you want to do. Then the next thing is, these flakes appear white. So we have to deal with snow in the same way as when we're painting white objects. So what you'll do is, you'll see because it's white, it's reflecting the sky color. So these gray pieces over here, that's pretty much your sky color. And then obviously it has been shadowed as well. And then the pieces that are in light are picking up the sun color. So let's zoom in here a little bit more. You see there's not really much white. In this case our sun is clearly yellow. So the 99.9% of our snow is not white at all. All you get is these few little sparkly bits, and those sparkly bits are white. Can you see that? So we're not painting white today, and that is obviously one of our big secrets to painting white. No sharp edges and no white. Who would have thought? Alright, I've got one more picky that I do want to show as well. One or two. Right, here's just another one for interest's sake. Here you can see how the ice is packed together, or the snow is packed together a lot more. And you can see how more dense it is. You don't have those light little flakes. It's a lot more dense and packed together, so it's actually in between snow and ice here already. And you can see how it's cracked up. Now Honeysuckle is saying this snow is a lot more bluish. That's all got to do with your sky color, Honeysuckle. So at sunset, you're not going to have bluish snow. That I promise you. Let's see if we can find a sunset-y kind of a picture. You see how yellow it is over there? And that's because it's either near sunrise that looks more like a sunset, eh? And let's see. Here's one of the lighter sky color, and now here you can nicely see the difference or the correlation between the sky color and the snow. Look at that. They're almost the same, just a few shades darker, eh? Now what you need to remember is your sky color infuses mostly in the shadow side, and then obviously your sun picks up on the highlight side. So your shadows are going to be sky color. Yeah, you can see this guy here is also, it's heading towards a sunset. As you've got almost a bit of pinky oranges in this area over here that it's picking up. Let's see what else is interesting that I can show you before we start painting. Alright, we often want to know how to paint snow that's falling like this. So let's go and have a look. The first thing you need is you need enough contrast to see those snowflakes falling. So if you've got a scene that's say maybe like this, or a scene like this, don't even bother trying to paint snowflakes falling, because you see you've got no contrast. You're going to paint those little snowflakes, but you're not going to see it, so don't even bother. And shut them down again. But a scene like this gives you nice contrast. So in other words, a later time of the day, or when you've got a background like this, a darker background, then you can paint snowflakes. So the first thing you want to do there is, you can use splatter, but if you look carefully you'll see they sort of tend to be out of focus. So what I would do is I would still use splatter, very, very light splatter. But then I'd go back and I'd just either lay a kitchen towel over the whole canvas and just rub it, or just very lightly tap it with my finger just to blur those actual dots. So we won't be painting snowflakes that are falling today, so I thought I'll just clue you in on that little secret in advance before I forget. Okay, now when you're doing snow scenes, let's find a typical photo. Yeah, I think let's go for this guy over here. This is now a real typical little scene. Sorry, it's a portrait orientation, so it doesn't show as wide on the screen. Typical little snow photo. All pretty, except it's pretty dull and monotone, don't you agree? So if you had to paint this, it's going to look like you've just done a black and white painting. So it's going to be nice. It's not going to have the wow factor. We need to bring the wow factor into it. And the way we do that is, let's just close a few things here before I overload my poor system, is we add extra sun to the scene. So we will do something like this. You see there? Added those lovely contrasts in by adding extra sun. So if you're taking photos and there is no sun, then when you're painting it, you're going to have to add that sun back, as though the sun is sort of peeping through the clouds. So you'll often, when you're painting snow, have to use your artist's license to jazz up your paintings and liven them up. Alright, another interesting thing we can chat about is when you've got snow in the mountains, because I'm not doing snow in the mountains today. Okay, here's one, lots of snow. Now you notice how misty it is like in this scene here. So you'll find that generally, because of that cold, you've got all that moisture and stuff in the air. Your atmospheric perspective also tends to exaggerate, and then after it's finished snowing and it's really calm, then you'll find it's crystal clear, because now all those snowflakes have washed all the dust and stuff out the air. So you're either going to see really far, really clear, or you're going to see you're really going to lose your distance. So you've got the two extremes there when it's snowing. Here's another scene. You see how super clear the air is? I mean, those back mountains are an absolute crystal clear because of that. There's no more dust and stuff in the air. It's all been washed away, you can say, by the snowflakes. Alright, so now you've had tons of snow and you've got a mountain that looks like this. So again, what you need to do is just, if you haven't got sunlight on it, you're going to have to jazz those colors up, or it's going to look absolutely flat like this guy over here. So if you had to try and paint this mountain, it'll look absolutely boring and flat. So you have to increase those contrasts, add some sun. So you're going to have to look very carefully, like over here. Let's maybe go and just jazz in a few colors just to give you a feel for what you need to do. Oh, I didn't plug in my my tablet, so I'm going to have to do it by hand. So let's go and see. So let's maybe say we've got a light bit of a yellowish kind of a color. No, I'd rather not plug in the tablet now, just now it bombs out the computer. So you'd go and add in here, look very carefully, go and find your lightest little areas. I'm doing it very rough with the mouse. These are the kind of areas here that we're going to have to liven up. Those guys there aren't quite as bright, so those there seem to be our brightest ones, and then we're going to have to go duller from there. So let's go and dull these guys down over here, in these areas here. Let's maybe go a little bit duller than that now. So we'll dull these guys down over here in these mid-tony kind of areas like this. I think let's just do sort of one area. And then here in the shadow side, we're going to have to use more the sky color. So you'd sort of go and pick up the sky color like this over here. And let's just go and lighten him up a little bit more. So you're going to basically use something like this. And pop him. Oops. That's not looking good. What's wrong with that color there? Change the setting there. It's coming out a little brighter, this colorized feature, than what it's supposed to. Never mind. I think you're getting the idea. Let's maybe go and make it darker. Let's see what happens. So you're going to darken this guy up, and you can see already how he's starting to liven up. And then what you're going to do is, let's just go and say, I'm just moving this color around here just to make sure I don't have any hard lines and stuff. Then right in the end you'll come back and you'll add a little bit of white, or just off white. So we're gonna have that. Let's go and pick up a really light, something like this, and then we'll add some extra, those last little sparkly highlighty areas in there like that. And that's how you're going to make this guy jazz up and look a lot more interesting. Let's maybe add a little bit more sunsetty colors like that, and then obviously you're going to have to go, and if you do that, because you've done that, you're going to have to go and jazz up the actual sky as well a bit. Otherwise they don't correlate, so you have to bear that in mind too. So you're going to have to add some yellow into the sky too, just to show you that it's more of a sunsetty or a later during the day. If you want to paint something that's sort of midday kind of thing, but the sun is shining, then obviously these yellows that we've got around this area over here, you're going to have to tone them way down to this kind of a color that we had over here. You know, this very just off-white type of color. So that's all. That's how you're going to jazz up your colors. Alright, so let me show you what we're going to be painting today. Let's shut them down and go and open him up. So I've got this picture over here. Now what I want to do is I want to show you a little bit more close up how to do the snow as well. So what I've done is I'm actually going to zoom in on this little area over here, and we're going to paint just this little section. So we're going to paint just that little piece over there today. So you see I have cropped it so that it's the correct size for my canvas. What I will do is I will give you guys the full picture as well. So if you want to go and do your own cropping and stuff, you can do that if you're doing a different size canvas and so on. Alright, so step one is obviously to do some drawing. So what on earth do you draw when you've got essentially a white canvas? In this guy over here, look for your contrasts. So we've got our tree trunks. So we're obviously going to draw in our tree trunks. And you see like places like this over here, and like where we've got this hard shadow, those are the kind of things you're going to draw in. So look for those little changes in contrast. So let's maybe zoom in over here and that little piece there. You see we've got a dark against the light, so you can go and draw in that little contrast line over there very lightly, just enough for you to see what's going on. Alright, so I'm going to zoom way out to like that so we can get the whole picture in the scene, and let's pop that over onto the canvas, which should be there like that. Just something like that. So I'm going to use my watercolor pencil. And I'm going to just really roughly sketch in the tree trunks. And I wouldn't necessarily draw in all these tree trunks. There's so many of them. Let's see if we can maybe zoom in a little bit more. Let's do that. So just remember, if you're drawing with, that I'm sort of zoomed in from here upwards. So just leave that little space open there for the shadows of the trees. So I'm going to draw some in some of the main ones. So I've got that little thickish dude at the back there, and then I've maybe got this guy over here. Now to get this perspective right, you're going to stop these tree trunks at different places. So to show a tree trunk is way at the back, I'm going to stop the bottom of him over there. To show he's a little bit closer, I'll stop him a little further down the canvas. Even closer, further down, and that's how you get your perspective right. So you make them broader and narrower, and make them stop higher up. Or would that be stop or start? Where it comes out the ground. So I suppose that's sort of a start. Eh? Okay, we've got that guy, and then here we've got a nice big trunk over here. Now what you need to do is also remember that your trees have got a hangover. They're all a bunch of alcoholics. So don't make them all upright. And if now you've got a whole bunch of little parallel lines. If you do forget, maybe Dennis can zoom in on this area. I know it's not quite as nice and shiny bright when you're drawing with a pencil. And because we're painting white, I can't draw too hard either. You see what I've done? I've just sort of lightly scribbled in on each one of those little tree trunks like that, just so that I can realize which is the negative space, in other words the dark areas, and which is the positive space, the light areas in between. So that just helps me keep my wits about me. So I've got this guy over here, and he comes out and he's got a nice little pile of snow growing up on him there like that, so I'll give him those little angles. Alright, we've got a few little smaller guys, so there's a few guys running out there like that, and yeah, we've got this guy coming out here. So give each one of these little trees his own little unique angle. You know, they could also be even, they don't have to be perfectly straight either, they could curve a little too. And make a few that overlap. That's always keeps things interesting. So that goes over there. Alright, we've got a bigger tree over here. He also seems to be a little bit more upright. He's a model citizen. I think I'll give him a bit of a hangover anyway. There. And we've got this guy over here. That. What's nice about this is you can really go ahead and just do your own thing. Alright, so let's just zoom out a little bit to make sure we got everything in picture. You can do your own thing and do your own trees. You'll also notice that I'm not going to try and paint every single one of these trees. It's not necessary. I'm just using the picture as a guide, as my inspiration. Alright, so let's go and mix some colors. So I am painting in acrylics today. You can obviously paint with in oils. Makes no difference. I'll just put my color buster there to try and help us get the colors, get the camera to pick up the colors a bit better. Alright, so what do we need? We'll definitely need some white, so I've got some titanium white over there. Let's zoom in. So what I do is when I'm looking for my colors, I start off here by the shadow area. So I'll go and pick up a color over there. So let's go and pick up a block and go and draw a block just to show you the color that I'm mixing. So there's the color that I'm mixing. And I'm not going to try and match it perfectly. I'm just going to try and get it more or less. So I've got some white, and let's see, that seems sort of a purpley color. So I don't know, let's maybe do a bit of, maybe a cobalt or a cerulean. You could use a cerulean, is actually a better option there, you know that. I think I'm going to change my mind. Let's see if I can get my tube of cerulean open. Yeah, that looks closer, eh? That's definitely getting us more on the right path. Okay, cerulean. And to get it more purpley, we'll definitely need a bit of red. So let's take, say, a little bit of crimson. You can use cadmium red as well. And let's go and mix them up and see what happens. And see if we need anything after that. Alright, Morena, if you haven't got cobalt or cerulean, use French ultramarine. Use any one of your blues. Yeah, to get that cerulean, Dennis is reminding me, just add some, if you haven't got cerulean, add some viridian into it, into your ultramarine. But remember, your light, or this color that we're mixing now, depends on your sky color. So I may be mixing this color here now, but tomorrow I'll paint another painting. I don't know, let's go and pick up another picture, and let's go and compare. Let me just find another one here. So let's maybe go and, so let's say maybe tomorrow you're painting this guy over here. That one there. So let's go and pick up the shadow color over there. So let's maybe go and pick that one up. I'm going to draw a box for him. So let's go and copy that. Let's go and paste him down, and let's go and compare those colors, and you'll see what I mean. Can you see the big difference? So it's not critical. It's not critical. It's all going to depend on what's around it, because it's white. It's picking up the colors around it, and obviously now the sky color as well. So if I end up mixing this color instead of this color, and I paint with it, it's going to look just fine. Don't break your back about it. Alright, so let's go and just zoom in a bit more on that guy again, and let's go and continue with our mixing. Okay, so I'm going to take some cerulean, let's add some crimson into it, and let's see where we get. Oh boy, that was way too much red, eh? Just way too much red. Can't believe how strong that red is. Alright, so now I've just got a color. Obviously now his tonal value is not correct, so let's go and add some white to that. And let's go and get his tonal value correct. So now again, what you can go and do to get your tonal value correct is just use the tonal chart on your color buster, and go and just compare what value it is. Hold that up against the screen, and then just check. It seems to be sort of a mid-tony value, and I think we're reasonably mid-tone. You could possibly go a bit darker there on that. So let's chuck that back in, and chuck some more cerulean in just to get it back to blue, to the blue side. And now once you got your tonal value correct, then you can start fiddling with the actual color itself. So what I'm doing is I just hold it up. Maybe Dennis can just sort of zoom in so we can see the screen and the sort of to here so that I can, yeah, just like that. So what I'm doing is I'm just holding my knife up and then, no, that's fine like that. So I'm just holding my knife up. Obviously now the camera is not going to pick up all these colors 100%. So I'm holding it up so that I can see the knife and the area that I'm mixing in the background like that.
The angle is showing it too dark here.
Yeah, no, the camera's not going to pick that up so nicely, unfortunately. But I think you can sort of see what I'm doing. Okay, at the moment it's still too grey, which means I've got too much red in there. So I'm going to continue to add blue. And it just seems to have a touch of ultramarine in that mix there as well. So I think I'll bring in some ultramarine into that. And even my color that I've got here is not nearly the same as on the photo. It's close, but it's not. I'm not trying to get it perfect because I know a little bit later during the day it's going to look different. So that's all fine. There we go, I think that's close enough for my liking. He's now a little bit darker than the original tonal value. That's fine. It's easier for me to lighten it up by just popping a little bit of white in there. To darken it up means I have to go and make new color, so I'd rather leave him just a tad too dark instead of too light. Alright, so let's go and zoom back out again. We're done with that little block, so we can go and dump him. Okay, so what I'm going to start with here is I'm just going to start getting myself a feel for what goes where. So I'll just block in a few of these major little shadows and things, just to get a sort of my bearings about me, because at the moment all I've got is a bunch of lines on my canvas. So let's go and grab a brush. So I'm just going to take, let's go to here. I'm just going to take my soft bright my soft filbert brush. You can obviously go and use just a regular bristle brush at this stage as well. That's fine. I may even end up using a regular bristle brush. It just depends. Depends on how well this paint spreads on the canvas for me. Okay, so let's go and do that and pop him in there. So I'll pop in, say, this shadow running down here like this. And it's not solid or anything. It's just we're just sort of plotting. I think that's going to put that picky in there, in that corner there. So just sort of plotting here. Here I've got another tree sort of at the back there throwing a shadow, which I don't really see. I know I've definitely got him up there like that. So pop him out there. And then this guy would probably end up also throwing a shadow. Now remember, your sun is going to come from one direction, so these guys should be roughly in the same direction. there, and then over here we've got this light little dip piece running around, sort of around there, like that. And we've got a little bit more around there, and here's a little sneaking around the back there. And here, this little piece here is going to be darker. Just a few little goodies, and that helps me place my tree trunks. And for now, that's enough. So now I can go back to my palette, and now we're going to start just mixing up a few of these the browns for the tree trunks and the distance. So as usual, we start at the back and we'll work our way forward. So let's take a look. Let's pop our picture down over there. No, that's not our picture, is it? Let's pop our picture down over there, and let's go and zoom in on this background area. See, we've got a little bit of color there. So we've got some lovely sunlight at the back. There's actually a few yellows and greens in there. So let's go and do that. So I think what I'll do is let's top up the white. And let's maybe go and put down a touch of yellow. And you could use a sap green or something like that. I've got a permanent sap green here, so that saves me having to mix the color. Alright, so now we know to push that guy in the background, what we need to do is to get our atmospheric perspective correct. It's going to look more and more like the sky color as we move backwards. So guess what? Here's our sky color. So I'm going to take some white, add a little bit of this in it. And that's going to pretty much give us a sky colory kind of color. Let's bring in say a little bit of yellow into one side, like that. Maybe a little bit more white. Okay, so that's going to give us a right yellow in the distance. So I'm going to take him, and I'll stick with my soft full bit for now. Pick up a little bit of that. And I'm just going to add a few little dabs and dashes. Very random, as random as I can. I think we can actually even do a little bit more, even more yellowy spots. So I'm picking up a little bit of white and a little bit of yellow, mixing them together. So it's a very light little yellow, just to add a few little sunshiny spots floating around here at the back. So I'm squeezing them in between the trees. So as I squeeze them in between the trees, that helps me define those tree trunks. So again, things start becoming a little bit more clear. So I'll pop some of those guys in over there. These greeny color. Because I'm just trying to get a little bit more color into this picture here, so just bear with me. And that's better, eh? Let's leave it at that there for now. Let's take a look. I think that's giving us a better rendition of the colors. As we add more color into the canvas, it'll gradually, the colors will become more and more true. Alright, so let's go back to the palette. So now maybe just add a little bit of green into this mix over here. And it's too bright, so I'll just steal some of our our sky color into there just to dull him down. And we'll put some of that in as well. So, a few little dabs and dashes, and I don't want any hard lines in the background. So what I'll tend to do with stuff like this is I'll maybe put down a mark, and then I'll just tap it with my finger, just very lightly tap it, just to blur those edges. Remember, things go out of focus as we go further away. Maybe here's a full up at the back over there, and then maybe down here, the sort of, maybe there's a bit of a ridge over there, so this maybe the snow ends. So I'll pop in over there. Now what's nice about just tapping it with your finger, because you automatically then get those random spots where it's lighter and darker and stuff like that. So that gives us a nice little, I think let's carry on this little ridge that we got there. I quite like that idea. Maybe goes up and then down again. When I'm tapping, I'm getting those lighter and darker areas automatically. Yeah, that's fine. And maybe a little bit over here, around here. Just like that. Now make sure you go either slightly over your tree trunks, where the tree trunks are, or you very carefully go right next to them. Now if you do go right next to them, just make sure you get continuity. So if it sort of ends this side, you've got something stopping over there, you've got to sort of imagine it continues and it pops his head out over there, so that you get continuity behind the tree. Let's see, I think we can maybe add even just something a little bit duller. So what I'm doing now is I'm just adding even more of my snow shadow color into this green, just to get a few real dull greens in here as well. Yeah, there's nothing really there. That, maybe here's some dull greens up here, and I'll leave white space as well for now. That's not a problem. Yeah, I think that's enough detail for the background. Alright, so what I'm doing now is I want to create that effect that there's some trees way out into the distance and stuff. So let's take, say, a bit of, yeah, I think maybe a bit of burnt sienna. Or burnt umber. The one I've got here is actually a burnt umber. So let's pop some of that down there. Oh, he's nearly finished this tube. Okay, so what I want to do now is to push those real distant trees. Let me show you over here. You see these trees here in the distance? They well lighter because of our atmospheric perspective and because of the extra light at the back there. I think I'm going to take my burnt sienna and I'm going to add some water to it. If you're painting within oils, then obviously you won't be able to just add water to it. You can't add medium yet at this stage, so just add some white and this sort of sky color that we mixed over there. You can do that as well. Just mix some of that in there. I'm just going to add some water to it because that now gives me a more sort of a transparent kind of color. I'm even going to dab it on the kitchen roll just to make sure that there's very little paint on this brush. And here in between, I'm just going to suggest a few little sticks and twigs and goodies. Again, not too much detail. Make sure I get a few guys going in behind trees and stuff like that to get continuity going. Not too much. Remember, this is far out in the distance. Maybe there's a few little goodies. So again, it's just sort of just a few dabs and dashes and things. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually use my head dryer. I'm going to dry this. There, like that. And I see the color we're seeing on the screen now is accurate according to what I see on my canvas. So what you're seeing is what I'm seeing now. Good stuff. Okay. Now, how do we show all the snow and stuff here in the background? Can you see you can clearly see there's lots of snow in the background, still in the trees and stuff. So how do we do that? Guys, if you did do this little background piece, the trees and stuff with your oils, then obviously you won't be able to dry your painting, and it's not necessary. I've just sort of saved myself a touch of time by doing that. So I will show you how to do this next step without having dried. So if you were painting in the oils, you just have to work this next step a little bit more careful than what I'm able to do now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the palette, and I'm going to take some of this sky color. I'm going to take some of that, and again I'll pop some down over here, and I'm going to bring some water into it, and I'm going to do a glaze in that background area over there. So that's going to push back that stuff that I've painted there even further, and it's going to give me take away that white of the canvas and make it look a little bit further away, and give me that snowy effect. So I've done that. So if you're using oils, what you're going to do is you're going to just take this and just pop it out in between all these little just pop it out in between all these guys that you've done. If there is little pieces of white canvas shining through, it doesn't matter. Remember, it's a very light little wash that I'm adding in now. All I'm trying to do is just get rid of that super pure white of the canvas, and you'll see what happens. It's pushing that all the stuff back, because now it's got that coating over it, so it's making it look all hazy in the distance. As quick as that. So I'm going to dry him again. There we go. Alright, so now we're going to gradually start working our way closer. Now, as we come closer, you see your contrasts get a lot more. So notice, take a look over, let's zoom in on this little piece over here. Notice you've got, even though you've got highlights and shadows, you haven't got much contrasts to work with. And then as you gradually move more and more forward, your contrasts gradually get more and more and more. So let's do that. Can you see how these shadows here are a lot more darker, but our lights have sort of stayed the same. Our lights haven't got lighter. And then here we got real contrast. Look at these nice, lovely, deep colors we've got over here. So now we're starting to get highlights, midtones, and shadow colors. Val Webb's painting with, she says she's just dropped her hairdryer and it's all in pieces. Yes, you can borrow mine, Val. Here you go. I'm not using it at the moment. Okay, so that's basically what we're going to work on now. It's just getting these contrasts to bring us more and more forward as we go along. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop down the palette over here so you can see what colors that I'm using. So at the back we've basically started off with this sky color over here. So as I go along, I'm going to gradually add a little bit more of my dark snow shadow color to it. I'll generally first put down the shadowy color, and then I'll come back and I'll add a bit of a highlight onto it. So at this point all I'm trying to do is just establish that little ridge and stuff at the back there. And there's obviously a few little pieces of snow stuck to trees and stuff, so a few little dabs and dashes of snow color in between there as well is also good. It's running down there like that. So real low contrasts, nothing too exciting at this point. Now what I am doing is, as I put this guy down, as I put him down, I immediately fade him away. I don't want to get hard lines and stuff at this stage. So remember we said earlier, there's no real hard lines in the snow. Alright, so now I'm going to go a little bit darker. Not too much. Don't go too dark too quickly. That's really important. And now I'm just going to use my my picture as a guide. So let's see. I've got this little darker area running around there like this, against that tree there. And maybe he comes up. Now you see what I'm doing? To get the continuity, I'm going to make as though I'm painting there behind the tree, to make sure I can get a nice continuous line running between the trees. Like that, and fade the bottom piece away. And then here I've just got a few little dabs and dashes. So I'm just going to literally add dabs and dashes. Okay, those back trees there, they can get their shadow in. Probably like that. Just more or less for now. That guy gets his shadow in there like that. I want them separate. I want two nice little lines over there. I think there was another tree actually coming down there. Something like that. Alright, so let's go and put in those tree trunks, and then we'll have definite clarity, and we'll start getting some definite distance. So for these back tree trunks, what I'm going to do there is, let's go back to the palette again. Again, I'll take my burnt umber, and I'm going to add a little bit of water to it. Same as what we did for the real back trees, but this time I'm not going to use quite as much water. And that'll also help me just get it transparent. See, there's a little bit of white there. A little bit of a sky color that was lying there, you can bring that in too if you want to, if you're painting in wells. That's fine, doesn't matter. All we're trying to do is just ensure that our color is not too intense too quickly. Otherwise we're not going to get that lovely distance. So let's pop him in. Now when you get here to the bottom of the tree, remember he sort of disappears into the snow. So you can leave this little area soft. So you can even just tap it with your finger, just to make sure you don't get a hard edge over there. It's easy for us to come back in and make a hard edge again. But it's not always that easy to lose a hard edge. So by the same token, you can sort of take it down a little bit further than what you need, so that when you do paint your snow over it, your tree trunk will sort of grow out of the snow. There's an interesting one there, and I think I'd like to have another extra dude over there. And let's see. So here and there I'll maybe make a decision to add something in that I didn't draw in. No, that's fine. Because I'm only using this picture as my guide, I can do that. So you can see just by putting them in, we're already starting to get a feel of the distance. Alright, so we need to add a little bit of contrast to that. So I'm going to have a little bit of detail to that. So I'm going to take this color that I've been using and add just a little bit more of the burnt umber to it. Now guys, again, if you haven't got burnt umber, then say use raw umber and some ultramarine. If you haven't got any dark brown like that, then maybe use your alizarin crimson and ultramarine. Mix them together and pop it into the orange. Remember, brown is orange's shadow color. Alright, so now to get that sort of tree barky effect, I'm gonna take the brush and I'm gonna hold it upright like this, and I'm gonna tap it very randomly. Tap it. Now at the moment you're not going to see it as well as you'd want to, because there's not much contrast there. But later on, I think I'm actually going to take a little bit more of this that sky color into there, just to get him a little bit grayer than what he is now. I may have to dry that guy now. When we come to the front trees, you'll really see this bark technique nicely, and you'll see how effective yet easy it is. It's peanuts. Guys, all I'm trying to do is just give myself an impression of the contrasts, or the impression of the detail, by using very low contrast. Don't go too contrasty yet. And as I tap, when I've got a big tree like this, as I tap, as I go across, I use less and less tap, so more and more distance in between them. and that makes them sort of break up. And you can already start to see that the it already looks round. I haven't even added a highlight to nothing in there yet. Alright, actually, I think what I'll do for a highlight, let's maybe take, say some of this color that we've got here, and let's add, say, a touch of orange to it. So let's get some orange in there. Some orange in there like that, and we push it back with some sky color to get our atmospheric perspective correct. And maybe even just a tiny touch of yellow just for a bit of sunlight. Why not? Okay, so I'm going to just dab in some of these guys over here. You see how quick it goes? I'm not trying to do all sorts of fancy things at this point. Really not necessary. Yeah, that's good enough. If we, as we come closer, if we see we haven't got enough contrast, we can always increase the contrast there. It's not a problem. Okay, so let's start getting our snow effect. So now I'm going to take, I've got my shadow color for the snow, but now I need a highlight color for the snow. So let's see, what are we done with? We're done with him. We're done with him, all these little greens in the background. So I think let's dump that, and that'll give us some space. There we go. So we can use some titanium white. Let's pop that down over there. And a speck of yellow in it. Not too much, just a speck. Even that's way too much. I want it just off-white. If that's happened to you, just hang on to that, don't throw it away. Cool, man. Let's go and paint some snow. Alright, so what we're going to work on now is sort of this area over here. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit more so that you can see the area that I'm working on better while I've got it small like that. So I'm not going to try and get it perfect. So I'm picking up some of this little highlight sun color of ours. And now I'm going to look for those sunny bits. So I know I've got some snow lying up against this tree over there. So I'll start there, and I'll make him overlap that tree there like that. So I'll pop him down over there and drag him out and fade him away. Remember, no hard lines. The only hard lines you're going to still see is at the top area over there. Maybe here I've got a few little dabs. So as you can see, sometimes when I'm painting here at this point, you can hardly even see it because we've got such low contrast. We haven't got lovely contrasts to work with yet. And that's fine. That's exactly the way it's supposed to be. So don't panic if you think, oh, I can't even see what I'm doing. Yeah, that's just the way it is. You're hardly going to see what you're doing. So working a little bit more on that. So again, I'm just dabbing and dashing. If I see I get a hard line, just fade him away. What you can also do is, as you go along, let's get the palette there. So I've been using this, and as I go along, I'd maybe pick up a little bit of my snow shadow color, and just mix a little color, and pop it in. For example, here on this side, I need a shadow, so I'll quickly mix up that little shadow there. That's fine. There's a dent. So what's going to happen is in the pieces that are high lying, you can say sort of the high lying snow that catch the sun, you can use the sun color. The minute you got a dent or something that's pointing away from the sunlight, then you're going to get a shadow. Then you're going to use the shadow colors. I will be showing you how to do like footsteps and stuff later, then that will sort of make a little bit more sense. Okay, I think I'm happy with that, so let's move on to here in the background. Again, there's not too much going on here, so I'm just going to add a little bit of sun and stuff, and a few little contrasts. So it's mostly, I would say, horizontal lines that I'm doing now. But I'm softening those lines as I go along. So Dennis may battle a little bit to keep up because I've got such tiny little areas that I need to paint at this point. So there aren't any real nice big areas for him to zoom in on and stay zoomed in. If you get like those shadows too big at this point, it doesn't matter. It's all good. Dabs and dashes. If I have to go over the tree, that's also fine. It's more important to get that continuity. Guys, I just want to do one thing. I bought a new white, but it's not a decent opaque white, so I'm gonna dump that and just mix up a new white. It's got no covering power. Let's use this white. We always rely on our white to be opaque to give us that covering power. Let's get that in there. Send that extra one side and work it more white, and that gives us that nice little just off white. Great. Let's try again. Oh yeah, there we go. That's better. Now I'm getting sunlight. I think let's bring this tree maybe a little further down. Cool, now that I've put that guy, extended him, I can add a nice little shadow to him, and that's going to help give me extra perspective there. Let's see if that guy's dark enough. Yeah, he stands out nicely there. And maybe just a touch darker, like that. So as I put him down, I'm just going to soften out those edges there. Let's get some nice sunlight on that side to really accentuate that shadow color over there. I think over here we can pop in a few more little shadows, a little dents. What all these different tonal values are that you sort of just scrubbing in here now is it shows you the undulations. In other words, if we go to here, it gives you these little humps and bumps going up and down like that. That's what we're busy doing at the moment. It's just getting that. You can sort of say the contouring. That's what we're doing now. But because it's far away, I can't go into heavy detail and stuff. Alright, let's get some nice sunlight shining through this between that tree and that tree there. So again, I'm working right up against that shadow. I want to get that shadow soft edged. What you can even do is just put down a line. Let's say you put down a line like this. Then you can use a clean dry brush and just soften the edges like that. That will also help you. So as if you do use this soft dry brush, then what you're going to do is, as you've softened out your edge, then immediately just wipe it on your cloth, and that'll stop it from getting dirty and eventually full of paint. So I think I'm going to start darkening this guy up. So now we can start painting these front ones. So now we're at the front already. Going reasonably quick, eh? Alright, so I think I'll use the pure burnt umber for this guy. And let's go and block them in. I don't want any water or medium in it at this stage. It must be. I want maximum covering power, because I need to get this dark. So now if you do have burnt umber like mine, that is a bit transparent, that's fine. Okay, soften that little bottom edge there. Just give it an extra coat. Now because I'm using my scooped up some yellow there. Because I'm using my soft fill bit, it allows me to get quite a bit of coverage, because now I'm laying down the paint as opposed to sort of when you're using a bristle brush, it sort of scrapes it on and scrapes it off again. And that helps me get initially a thicker layer of paint. And that gives me better coverage. If you get the shakes when you're painting these edges of the tree trunks, that's wonderful. That gives you extra texture. Yeah, nice character. I'm actually shaking here on purpose to make sure I get a little bit of character. You want your trees to be perfectly smooth. That's unless you're painting one of those trees that are perfectly smooth, like maybe a blue gum tree. Otherwise, you want to give it that bit of character and texture. So sometimes you'll actually find I'll even leave an odd little, like a little white dot or two. Maybe Dennis can zoom in on that little piece there just for 2 seconds. You see they've got a little white dot there that you'd normally paint closed with the canvas is still shining through. Tree trunks on the edges, sometimes I'll actually leave those dots. If you've got, like with this tree here, I've got the snow that's sort of built up against the tree, piling up against the tree there. I'm going to try and sort of avoid as much of that area as what I can. It is possible, obviously, now to paint with the white over it, because it is opaque, but it's better not to, because otherwise sometimes you have to end up giving it 2 or 3 coats. Alright, now I want to show you a nice little trick before that paint does dry. I'm going to use a clean dry brush, and while that paint is still wet, you can start giving it texture already by using my little tapping technique. So I'll add a few taps, just wipe the excess paint off the brush, add a few more taps, wipe the excess paint off the brush. So now you've got some more that canvas that's just shining through. So it's almost like a little bit of a stabbing motion that I'm using. Less and less and less as I go through to the shadow side of the tree. So even though this isn't your highlight, it just already starts giving you a nice feel for your texture on the tree. Look at that, I've almost got a lovely shaded tree, and I've used one color. That's pretty cool, eh? And sometimes it works out that you can leave it like that. My favorite way to paint, eh? One coat painting. Wish you could always paint like that. Then we wouldn't have to worry about shadings or anything. Mixing up colors, you just zap it on and that's it. Let's give this guy a nice little texture. Can you see how I'm sort of wiggling my hand and stuff? So sometimes I'll wiggle and sometimes I'll tap, and that'll help me get that nice texture. Let's go over here. He's thinner, so he'll probably be a bit smoother. He won't be quite as textured as the big one. And I'll bring him down a little further than what he needs to be. And now our distance is really starting to show up nicely, eh? With these dark contrasts in. Let's get that guy down over there. Alright, I'm going to give this guy a dry. Okay, so now I can start adding some extra details. Let's get some more burnt umber going down there. So while we at it, let's fully texturize these trees and get them over and done with. So I've popped down a bit more burnt umber on the palette. So now I'm going to take my burnt umber, because now I need to sort of mix highlights and stuff. Now you'll also find if your paint is a little bit too transparent and you're not happy with your darks, then what you can do is you can take that. Let's get a little bit of French ultramarine into the burnt umber. Orange is brown's shadow color, so to shadow a color you use the opposite color on the color wheel, and that's why I'm adding French ultramarine. Alright, so now we need to use, now we're creating texture, so I'm actually going to dump the actual picture. So I'm going to use a tapping motion. Random. Now if you haven't got a full bit like this, a nice flat one, then what you can do is you can use your rigger brush, and if you haven't got one of them, in a pinch you can use a fine round brush as well. Now if you're using the rigger brush, what you would do is you don't hold it like a pen. You hold it in the tips of your fingers like this. You see that? So that you can work with the whole length of the bristle. So you press it down like this. And that's how you get that nice texture. So I'm adding some lovely darks in here on the far side away from the sun. If you're using your full bit, just keep sort of reforming the point. You want a nice sharp chisel point. So that's why the rigger brush works so well, because it gives you a nice long fine line every time. So remember, lots of dabs. Now I'm working with a shadow color, so lots of dabs on the shadow side of the tree, and as you move towards the center, less and less and less. So that you sort of forming a shading, but you're forming a shading using dabs and dashes. Alright, so let's go for our highlight color on the trees. So I'm done with that guy now, so I think I'll just clean off this little area for now. Just to start fresh. Don't want those little flakes of dry paint in the where I'm painting. So I'm going to take some, just use the brush, I don't need much paint. So I've taken my burnt umber and add some orange to it, like that. And if I need to go lighter, I'll just steal some of that. Steal some of my sun color, because that's what we do when we highlight anyway. Eh? You go up towards the next color, up towards yellow. So I'm busy with an orange, so that one's got yellow in it, it's got white in it, so it gives me exactly what I need. Go on. So now I'm going to add my dabs and dashes of the a highlight, and now you can see it's almost unnoticeable on this one over here because of those original ones we did. It just shows you how much time it actually saved us. Dab now again. Here I'm going to put lots of these dabs in the sun side, and as I go over to the shadow side, I'll make sure I've got less and less paint on the brush, so I may actually even just wipe it on my cloth just to get rid of that excess. So it just got a little bit. You're adding lighter, almost transparent dabs and dashes at this stage towards the shadow side. Lovely. I forgot that tree. I'll have to add these shadows back in. That'll teach me for throwing a piece of paint away when I know I haven't finished the painting yet. If you haven't got that dark in, you won't see the highlights because otherwise there's no contrast. Add those highlights in there like that. We will still add a final highlight onto the trees as well as we go along. Guys, I am working reasonably fast with this. But when you're doing stuff like this, it's actually good to work fast, because then you can't really think about what you're doing. What you must just do is remember to pick up paint every now and again. The less you think, the more random it comes out. Lovely. Let's give this guy his highlights. I've actually added a little bit more white into this guy because he's not quite as, because he's so skinny. Couldn't really see the highlight. Okay, I'm happy with that. Cool bananas. Let's carry on with our snow. So what we're going to concentrate on now is this foreground piece. We're going to start adding just a little bit more goodies to it, a little bit more details as we come forward. So I think I'll start here. Let's get the palette on. So I'm going to use my sun color. Let's go over here. That one that's just off white. So I've got some snow piled up over here, and I've got some snow piled up over there as well. I think let's maybe add, yeah, I think let's do this. So I'm going to mix sort of a mid-tony color, and let's complete that guy. So you'll start off light on the sun side because our sun is coming from the left-hand side. And as I move across around, I'm going to gradually add more of my shadow color to darken him up until eventually here on the shadow side I'm nice and dark. And then you see how I'm putting it down, just little dabs and dashes and things like that. And you fade that bottom piece away like that. there's a guy coming out over there like this. Fade him away to the bottom. Now if you do go over a tree like that, it's not a problem. Just use a clean dry brush. To lift it out again. Another trick that you can do is, let me grab my knife. When you get to say a tree, something that you need to avoid. So let me just grab some color here as well. So if I say need to avoid this area over here, I'll use my knife as a temporary little mask. So I'll pop him down over there, and now I can paint straight over my knife. And now I also know I'm getting good continuity. So now don't be shy to use your other brush or your finger. Soften these lines out. Because we're coming to the front here now, you can also start adding, you can start using your neat shadow color as well. To give us a nice full contrast. Okay, this area here seems to be a bit darker and stuff, so I'm going to just add a few darker edges in here as well. In fact, I think I'm going to sort of just, I'm going to fill in that whole area there with darks. Maybe add a few little darker contrasty pieces in there too. That. Maybe over here, what happens sometimes is, let's see if we can see one. Yeah, let's zoom in on this piece over here. So I'm going to zoom way in. Now take a look in this little corner over here. See what's happened? I think the heat that's still left on the tree has sort of melted this little piece of snow there. I'm not too sure how clear it is to see that. It's not quite as obvious. So what's going to happen then if you do have that situation? Because you'll quite often find that. Then you'll add a shadow right next to the tree over here. And that's going to be the inside piece, the underneath piece. Then you come back in with a highlight. And you work that highlight around there like that. And then here I've also got some snow up against that tree over there like that. And can you see that? Suddenly you've got that little hole, that depression where that snow is melted. Gee, it couldn't have been easier than that, eh? Okay, so there's this little shadowy piece running up there like that. And I suspect he's quite tall, so he'll run past that tree and he'll run out that way. So I'll put that guy down. That, and if necessary, use your brush, soften those lines. And I will add a few little highlighty pieces in here as well. And here we've got this lovely little huge big pile up against this tree here. So what I'm going to do, remember we've got no sharp edges, so I've got to make sure that this here is quite random. So again, now you really got to squiggle to get that sorted over there. So that goes over there, and there seems to have another little pile. And as he curves around, he gets gradually darker. So I'm going to gradually work in more shadow color to get that rounding right for me. So just dabs. And that gives you that texture in the snow. So no smooth shadings like this. So it's not super dotty, it's not dotty, but it's not super smooth either. Let's maybe use some pure shadow color. Let's see, let's do that so you can see which guys I'm using. So I've picked up some pure shadow color and just put it down here. Because this side of the tree is in full shadow. All that snow there is in full shadow. I'm laying him down there like that, and then he zooms out there as part of that shadow there. So pop him down. Let's just soften that line over there. Don't want him hard. And as he curls around, he's got that bit of height himself. You can see there on the picture. Let's see how we can zoom in. You see here, this piece itself has got a rounding. So you've got a highlight side and a shadow side to that pile of snow that's there. So I'm adding a shadow side onto that pile of snow. Even there, just that little piece that's going up, he'll have his own little shadow side there as well. Dabbing and dashing, and you see how lovely it's starting to look, eh? Nice little pile over there. Alright, over here, as he comes out, he comes down to maybe that, like this. And let's add a new another pile of snow. It comes up maybe over there like that, something like that. So put that white down, fade him out, add extra shadow color as I go down. And who knows, maybe there's a shadow from another tree. Put him down, fade him out. See, I'm softening everything out once I've done it. Once I put it down, soft. You must be tired of me saying soften your edges already, eh? Hey, you know what? I think I'm going to put in an extra tree. Alright, I think let's first just get the canvas covered. I see we are sort of running towards time. If we have time, then I'm going to add an extra tree sort of peeping out behind that little pile over there. Extra goodies that side there will also now go in shadow, but I've got to make sure he's lighter than that tree shadow. There, like that. Extend that tree shadow all the way out the picture. Alan is asking you if I can put in some footprints. Yes, I'll pop in some footprints first. I'll do that right at the end, Alan. Is that good? Alright, so here I've got nice sunlight. I'm going to put lovely sunlight in between these guys, in between those two shadows, because that's my opportunity to get lovely contrasts over there. And now see what I'm doing. I'm not going to have a solid, I don't want a line, so I'm going to make sure I've got an irregular edged shadow over there, because that also shows you that your snow goes up and down, up and down. It's not perfectly smooth. Let's get a little bit more dark in that one over there, like that. And I think we'll just extend him out the picture too. But now we know that shadows sort of start off dark right against the object and then they go lighter. So we'll fade him away gradually, like that. Okay, let's add a little bit more texture over here. Maybe here's a little darker patch around here, like that. And we've got this dark patch over here. Pile him out to there. And who knows, maybe this guy is melting a little bit, so maybe there's a little bit of snow still stuck to the tree over there, like that. That's sort of just separated from the rest. Getting him up right against the tree there too. Goes out. Fade him away there. Okay, so as we come around, we've got to gradually lighten up. Yeah, I think I'm going to get a little bit of contrast over there. So I'm actually going to I'm using my contrast here to my advantage. That guy goes over there and maybe comes out that direction there. Alright, so let's take that guy and we'll bring him down there like that. There. And I see I'm not making this guy look the same as that guy. Each one's got to look different and unique. Otherwise they become extremely boring. Almost a little bit of just dabs and dashes, shadings. Maybe here's an extra little pile that's lying up over there. So let's fade that away dark there. Soften all that out. And there's an extra little piece maybe coming up over there. It's just popping his head out. Cool, let's block this in. Maybe there's a little denty kind of a piece. Maybe here. So just a few little dabs and dashes. Like that. And then we go lighter. So I'm gonna, you can see I'm using my sun color and the shadow color, getting in between colors in there. So I'll squeeze in a few little in between colors. Like that. And then finally we pop in with our sun color. Nice bright sun color. Again, I'm going to strategically put him right next to the shadow to get max contrast. fill up these little gaps of canvas that are still open. Soften it all out of the brush, no white lines. There's just one place I see is bugging me. I haven't completed that shadow properly. So let's complete him very quickly. Soften that edge. Then I'm going to blend him away completely because I want that height to disappear on me. So remember that sharper edge over there gives me height, and there where he sort of meets the rest of the snow, the body of the snow here at the bottom, you're going to have a completely lost line. You don't want any lines over there like that. And that's how you make that snow sort of just grow out of the ground. Oh, maybe we can zoom out just to get a little bit of a feel for where we're at this stage. Alrighty, footprints. So I'm going to take, footprints is nothing but a depression in the snow. So let me find a footprint picture. There's some footprints there. So let's zoom way in there. Okay, so the inside, the deepest part is going to be your darkest part, and as you come out, he's going to go lighter and lighter. So again, you see there, no sharp edges. Yeah, no, that's fine. And then obviously, like in this picture, our sun is coming from that side, so your highlight is going to be on this side, and your shadow, deepest shadow, is going to be there. So let's go and do that. So there is no real footprints in our picture, so I'll just wing them in. So I'll take my shadow color. See, there's already a dot. Looks like he wants to be a footprint already. So maybe it would have been nice if we walked that way, but never mind. It's just a practice one. So maybe let's put another footprint over here. So I know they won't be right in front of each other. They've got to be sort of staggered. So we'll put maybe another one over there, and maybe another one over here. Okay, so there's my darkest part. Now I'm going to fade that top edge away. I'm going to leave the bottom edge sharp. Because remember, that's your depression. So that's sort of your what would you call it? That in this case is going to end up being your found line. Now I'm going to just, for 2 seconds, go over to my fine round brush. I just want to make sure I get this here nice and dark, so I'm laying down a thicker layer of paint there. So I'm doing that little shading that we saw. So on the inside of the footprint, the deepest part is the darkest, and as you come out, you get more and more sun, and it gets lighter and lighter and lighter. There like that, there like that. Okay, now I'm going to take my highlight color, and I'm going to pop him down. Oh, let's do. Sorry guys, put him on the wrong side. Your highlight is going to be right up against the shadow. This guy here at the top has got to remain a shading. Somehow I managed to get some water on there. Must have been a little bit of water on my finger. So now he's not shading so nicely. We'll have to give him a second to dry. Okay, so there's this one's little highlight. Because as you step on it, it sort of raises over there. So some of it gets squished, and the rest get raised. On the outsides. Same as when you're walking in mud or on the soft sand on the beach. Alright, so if we zoom out, we should be able to see the impression. Okay. Alright, so what we got to do now, just to finish off this painting, our snow is done. There's two things. If you feel that your snow ends up being a little bit too white, then just come back in and give it a quick little color wash. When it's dry, just give him a quick little glaze or a color wash, no problem. Alright, so now I'm going to use my tiny brush now, and I'm going to use a little bit of the burnt umber. So now what you'd want to do is do a little bit of detailing. So you'd maybe put in those little branches and stuff that stick out. So let's go and take a quick reminder here on the, you see, got these little pieces of branches and these loose finer branches. You need to do that finer detail work now. So I'm going to show you how to do one or two, just to give you a feel. So just put that dark dudes in there, and if you want longer branches, then I'll use my rigger brush, and I'll water down, or if I'm using oils, I'll add some medium to the burnt umber, and I'll roll the whole length of the rigger brush, the whole length of the bristles like that in the paint. And now when you paint branches, you got to remember two things. You paint branches one this way, one that way. But now, because trees are alcoholics, you got to shake. They got a hangover, remember? So you got to shake while you do it. So it's one this way. Let me just get more water in. That is not. It's got to be nice and thin consistency of an ink. One this way, one that way, one this way, one that way, and that's how you get that lovely little. Maybe this is a broken twig. Maybe he's just broken off there like that. And who knows? Maybe there's a smaller little twig. I don't know, maybe growing out the ground over there. He's poking his head out. He's still a baby tree. Still got some growing to do. So now I'm going a little bit of this way and a little bit that way, this way. Now you see I start at the beginning of the branch and I end at the end of the branch, so that I have those little sharp points, so that your branch sort of ends up. Now just don't forget, if you add a little branch sticking out or a piece of grass or something, he's also got feelings, so have mercy on him and give him a shadow on the ground. Alright, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you my little test one that I did do beforehand. Seeing as we are on out of time. So I'll show you my completed one, and that'll give you a feel for what he looks like with a few little branches and stuff in. So it was just those few little branches, add in that, and that adds character. Okay. So if there's any last questions before we knock off, now would be a great time to ask me. I'll have a sip of my coffee in the meantime, and then Dennis can do a nice pan over over the painting. See that lovely texture in the tree there? What I actually did, let Dennis just stop there for a second. What I actually did do, which I didn't mention now, was I came back in and I added, just in this little bottom corner, I added an extra brighter highlight. Because your sun is shining from the top. And now at the top, you tend to have, let's just zoom out a little bit more, please.
Yep.
Out for me a little bit more, please. A bit more. Yeah, let's stop there, that's fine. You see here at the top, you've actually got all your branches and leaves and stuff. So the leaves and branches throw shadows over on the top end of the trunk itself. But now, here at the bottom, he's got a bit of height. So this bottom end over here tends to be a little bit brighter. So what I've done is I've just in this little, almost in a triangle shape. So let's put it, say, like that. So in this little triangle area over here, I added an extra little bit lighter highlight onto the tree trunk. And that just adds extra sun. Alright, there we go. Dennis can carry on with his pan there. Tony says it's bonkers how we look at a scene of snow and say it's white. Yes, there's absolutely no white. The only white that I would ever add into a snow scene is just when I'm painting reasonably close up like that. Then I'd add those little sparkly bits. Remember I showed you on that one photo with the tracks? Yeah, those few little sparkly bits. And even then, those sparkly bits, you only get them when it's really, really close up. So, like with a painting that's wide like this, I don't even add those sparkly bits. It's not necessary. You can if you want to, but I don't feel it's necessary. Alan says, I learned a lot. I hope I can do them. Alan, of course you can do them. If I can do them, anybody can do them. I'm probably the least arty person on the whole website. If I can do it, you can do it. Cool. Okay. Alright. I think let's wrap it up, guys. Okay, guys, so there you have it. It wasn't so difficult painting the snow after all. It was actually quite easy, wasn't it? So just those few little tricks. I'm not even going to mention them again because you've heard them a million times during the class. So from Dennis and myself, I hope you have a wonderful week. Next week we'll do some more landscape painting. I'll see you then.